point to your relationship with Obama when he was in the Senate before Roberts came up. Did he ever call you up for your take on Roberts? Because I think he eventually voted against Roberts. Did you have a disagreement with him or did he even ask for your advice on Roberts?
We talked about Roberts. I think, Obama was a colleague for a long time. He's a great guy. I don't know if it's right to talk about discussions, the details, but he gave a public statement about Roberts, and I'm sure it showed his convictions, which were that Roberts was out of line with a certain very broad conception, which would admit conservatives certainly of what a Supreme Court justice should be. I think he said from his public statement that Roberts would be a pretty political judge who wouldn't respect rights in the way that Senator Obama thinks a justice should. And thus far, Obama's judgment has been confirmed, not mine.
For Senator Obama, you don't want to give too much details of the conversation you had with him, but for the public record, can you describe what kind of law professor he was? I know the Chicago Sun-Times actually did a piece on him in mid-December looking at his rankings from students, how good of a professor they rated him, and they said he was the second best law professor here, very likable guy. Can you describe what kind of professor he was?
Yeah, he was a extremely well-prepared and learned professor, even though he had another job in the state legislature. He was passionately engaged with the material in a beautifully nonpartisan way. So he taught constitutional law, he taught voting rights, he taught issues involving equality and liberty, and he did them with a kind of, I think, relaxed, curious intensity from the students' description. Really interested in what they had to say, not pushing his own line much, trying to figure out multiple points of view and to get them all in their best form, and then trying to figure out what's right. So he was, University of Chicago law students are not easy to please. They're superb, and if a faculty member is underprepared, or if a faculty member is confusing, or pushing a line of argument that really the law doesn't warrant, the students will see this like that. And Obama had none of the vices to which some of us are sometimes vulnerable. He was a beloved teacher. We would have hired him full-time on the faculty in a minute, and we tried at various times. I remember when he ran for Congress the first time, we thought, well, we want him to win, that would be good, but if he loses, that would be good too, because we can get him on the faculty. And this was thought by people across ideological lines. Some of the most conservative members of the faculty wanted him to win, I guess because they thought of Obama a little like some liberals thought of Roberts, that is someone of that degree of excellence you can't go wrong with. Students and faculty alike thought the world of him.
For people who are skeptical that he is only a liberal, can you point to a few things where he actually sides on the moderate to slightly conservative side?
Yeah, he voted for the class action bill a couple years ago that the Republicans got through, and it was a Republican initiative framed by the Democrats as a way of hurting plaintiffs in class action cases and protecting corporations. Obama voted with the Republicans for it, I bet, with the thought that some of these class action suits really
are frivolous
and they hurt companies that really aren't doing anything bad. And if you hurt the companies, you end up hurting consumers and the company's employees. You don't help.
You pass the cost on eventually.
Yeah. So I sensed his moderation and his Chicago background in that particular vote. For climate change, he's suggested a pretty aggressive research program, but he's insisted on market-oriented methods for producing greenhouse gas reductions, and said more than any of the Democratic candidates, we have to find the most economical ways to do it with a cap-and-trade program, which is the sort Reagan liked for handling environmental problems. He has also suggested a considerable interest in nuclear power, which is something liberals have not historically been excited about. He said, go look at the science. He's interested in thinking about nuclear power. On dealing with poverty relief, he's focused more on the earned income tax credit. It's pretty technical stuff, but this is the Republican way of helping the working focused on that more than on the minimum wage legislation. With his health care plan, the big difference between him and Edwards and Clinton is that he doesn't have a mandate in it. It's a mandate only for children. For the rest of us, it's an option. So he wants to make it available, but he doesn't want to mandate it. Now, I think that shows he's a kind of 21st century Democrat who knows that freedom of choice is really a good idea. Keep in mind he comes from the University of Chicago, where Milton Friedman's most famous book, I think, is called Free to Choose.
Right.
So on those and other issues, Obama is hardly a party line type.
Do you think voters have the right to be skeptical of all of his present votes in the state Senate?
I think no, that he was a fantastically effective and admired member of the state Senate on both sides of the aisle. He was considered someone whose competence was through the roof, whose ability to forge coalitions was somewhere between excellent and astounding. The present votes, I think this is kind of a technical detail, where there were, it's a little like I don't like it so much, but I'm not prepared to oppose it. And what's exactly going on in an institution as complicated as the state legislature there, I think to make an issue out of these present votes would be a terrible mistake.
Did he ever express any ambitions to be a judge or be a Supreme Court judge? Do you think, let's say he doesn't become president, vice president, and somehow a few years, 5 years, 10 years down the line, some president, Democrat, came with the idea of nominating him to the Supreme Court. Do you think that would be a good fit for him, that type of mind, or not?
I think he'd be fantastic. It's a great question. I never thought of it. I never heard him say that he'd be interested in being a judge. But I think he would be a fantastic Chief Justice of the United States. He's got, Roberts is pretty young, and however much we may disagree with some of his votes and opinions, we wish him a very long life. Nonetheless, Obama has Roberts' level ability, which is, that's the top of the line. And he's also just a great guy. So I think he would be a very interesting Supreme Court justice. But it may be there are even higher uses of his talents.